All right, I'm here with Jonathan Miranda, Omar Gonzalez, Wesley Negron, and Danny Figueroa. Fuck. Danny All right, Figueroa. Okay. All right, this is the band Moths from San Juan, Puerto Rico. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, we're doing good.
Awesome. So, how's quarantine life treating you?
It's been treating us.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy right now. I mean, it feels like we're not able to, I mean, everybody's lives are really distraught over what's happening right now. But I mean, the music community is definitely going through a lot. I mean, we're not able to play shows. I mean, and we have to find means to sort of promote ourselves. It's rough right now. In preparation for this, I listened to your debut EP, Moths, which was released in 2018. I listened to it a bunch of times because it's a really fascinating work. Like, you guys mix all sorts of styles. I mean, I don't really know how to identify your genre. It's almost like stoner rock and prog and all sorts of different stuff. It's very cool. So for those that aren't familiar with your music, how would you describe it?
I mean, Jettle is a thing that we came out. Actually, Danny came out. It's a mix between jazz and metal. But I describe, basically, I am the one who manages everything that has to do with social media, and I usually put it as stoner progressive metal. But we actually go beyond that in a lot of sense, and we actually have a lot of jazz in the music. So.
Yes.
But that is proggy.
Yeah, it's prog. Yeah, it definitely, like, prog is a way to describe it because prog is a very large genre. Like, there's a lot of different stuffs you can fit in it. Like, there's elements of like jazz and like stoner and kind of bluesy stuff and
Psychedelic.
Psychedelic, definitely. So where did you guys get your start? Because I saw in Facebook that you guys kind of started around July 2016. Is that right?
Yeah,
that is correct.
So how did the band form? Like how did you guys sort of come together?
Well, basically, I was in another band, which is the band that I have the shirt right now, and it's called Safacon. And we used to play death thrash metal, and I was kind of getting tired of just being fast and heavy all the time. And I've been listening to a lot of progressive music for the past 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make a music project that would go that way. And then I contacted Jonathan in 2016, and he spoke with Omar. Then we got together with the old drummer and the old singer that we had by the time. And we made, actually, the 3 songs that are original in the EP were the first 3 songs that we wrote together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all started in my living room one day. Yeah, we just started.
Literally.
Yeah, we just started jamming out to like just ideas that we had, and the first song that we wrote was Desires, actually. We just started jamming out to like the main idea, Desires, which is the da 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 da. We just started jamming to that, and we kept playing for like an hour or two, and we just said, we kind of have something here.
It was impressive how fast we kind of clicked.
Yeah.
And it's because,
I mean, Omar and me, we know each other from far before 2016.
Yeah.
So Omar and me, we used to jam when we studied in the same university. Wesley was kind of like the odd man out because we hadn't played with him previously. I think we played a
tribute band.
Yeah, like a tribute band, Misfits tribute band that we played together, which is completely different from what we ended up playing, right?
Course.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's see how it goes, and it just clicked perfectly with him. So it was nice, knowing that, hey, there's something cohesive happening here.
Also, the fact that we kind of share a lot of influences as well. We kind of listen to a lot of we listen to a lot of very different music, but when we get together and like listen, like when we like the same bands, is very strong, you know. So I think that kind of introduces or went itself into the riffs and then the whole music making stuff. And then when we had Hurricane Maria happening in 2017, and our drummer, our first drummer, and the singer left the band. And that's when Danny came in. Even though Danny did not record the drums in the EP, but he did recorded the whole thing and mixed the whole thing.
He was there for the whole process of recording the drums and everything. So he was there in the creative process, and in a way, he was collaborating at the end of the day.
I mean, there's some production value there. Yeah, I had an idea. When I heard the band play live.
Yeah.
I think I told Wesley, like, I think I want to record this band.
So I'm wondering, where did the name Moths come from? Where did you guys, how did you guys figure out that's what you want to be called?
I say it's because we like Mothra.
Wait, Mothra from Godzilla, or?
Yeah, from Godzilla.
No, actually, it's just I'm a big fan of The Ocean, the band The Ocean Collective, and they have a song called "The Metaphysics of the Hangman," and I remember, I don't even know where I was.
The acronym for it.
That's
Moths.
the acronym. When you put it all together, it's Moth without the S. And then when I just wrote, I was like, Moth is a good band name. And then I checked, there's a lot of bands called Moth. So I said, let's just add the S, and that's the exciting story.
That actually is a lot more specific than I thought the name would be, because I thought it was just like, oh, moths are cool, let's name it Moths. And that's interesting that the name Moths isn't taken. Like that's pretty interesting. Yeah. It's crazy how it works out. Dude, finding band names is so annoying.
Yes.
So what was the first song you guys wrote as a band? So it was Desires, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, there was Desires, yes.
So okay, so
it's why we don't like it anymore.
Yeah, we don't really like playing that song.
Like we mentioned earlier, like I personally like when everyone has their own input in the songwriting process, and the fact that this was the first song and only me, Jonathan, and Wesley wrote that song without a drummer or anything, or a singer.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's also one thing. We just let ourselves go by the drums so much these days.
Yeah, hear that, Danny? You're really fucking important.
Yeah, he is. He's actually he is very. He actually is. I would say that, and this is a very personal opinion of mine. That in all the musical projects I've been, I love the way that we sit down and start composing music, because the input of everyone's input, it's there and it's taken into consideration. And Danny brings a lot of creative ideas, not only for the music as we are creating it at the moment, but also in the studio. He's the one who's mixing everything, so he comes out with really crazy ideas that really come out of nowhere, and they work.
A lot of last minute stuff going on in the recording process.
Yeah.
Like we end up playing something, and Danny says, why don't you try doing this? Like
completely different.
It makes sense that the drums are sort of like where the songwriting stems from, because the way that you guys phrase your music, there's a lot of like nuance, like very specific, small, like rhythmic details and stuff like that. And so it definitely makes sense. That also makes sense that Desires is like now not not as favorable, because it doesn't have that same process, So you were talking about this earlier. What are some like as a collective, what are your major musical influences?
I don't really think we as a collective, we have like the five of us can say one band that we all like. No, there's a big Rush influence. Of course, there's a big Rush influence, but not everyone in the band is a big Rush fan.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
it's weird.
Oh, we kind of there's a bunch of influences, and for me it's guys like you have your sign over there from Sapa Plays Sapa. Like I love Frank Zappa and I love Rush, and those are the two things that really just I mainly bring to the band. But it's not like everyone will bring the same thing. That's why I think, and that's why I like this band so much, or like being in this band so much, where like everyone will bring out new different ideas at the same moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in my case, I like to keep a balance between being really technical, but also trying to be really catchy and melodic. And I think a band like Mastodon exemplifies that quite well, especially like in their more current stuff. Like they have these really catchy songs, but when you come to realize what they're playing, like what the fuck are these guys playing in these guitar riffs? So I try to keep that balance of trying to make it catchy, but also I want to challenge myself.
Gotcha. And I just want to say that's a really important thing that a lot of technical bands do not, that they forget about, is that your music, like when you're going into a technical place, you do have to kind of sacrifice accessibility sometimes. But it's really important to remember that as people that are creating like technical music, that like, hey, this has to like relate to people, you know, you can't just be doing crazy shit. Although personally, I do like crazy shit, and I will vouch for that. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like crazy shit is fine. Exactly. That's where it's at.
What are some non-musical influences on your music? So things that aren't related to music, but just ideas and concepts.
Well, these three are very huge film fans. So sometimes we talk about, I mean, I'm always in these conversations, I'm always lost because these guys are like super film nerds and they know about movies and stuff like that. So sometimes we kind of, I would say that we add some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like to some extent, how Danny said, like when I realized we sometimes really don't talk about music. We just talk about other stuff, like pop culture stuff, in a way that kind of influences us. Because since we're playing like music all the time, we don't want to talk about, oh, we should work on this, or we'll talk about this. Sometimes we just talk about a movie we just saw or something like that.
Sometimes we have 3-hour conversations about Star Wars.
I mean,
where no one agrees in anything. We just share ideas. And then after that, it's like, okay, let's go rehearse. Yeah. Having Star Wars in mind.
But I mean, recently we've been kind of in this gig where in our mind where Japanese films are kind of our thing right now. We've been talking about it so much recently that it's been affecting, you know, our writing process.
I have a question. I saw a meme that kept popping up on your comments in one of your music video. So, what is lamp?
What is lamp?
That is the question.
That is the question.
That's what we want.
I don't know. I see it all.
We're going in that direction. We just don't know why.
Yeah.
I just like, I'm looking at the comments and it's just like lamp core, lamp, not enough lamp, and I'm like,
it's
what?
Kind of funny because.
Oh, go ahead.
It's kind of funny because by the time like our EP came out, it was around the time like when that meme started popping around in like social media, and it was like at its peak. So
we got free like publicity from that.
Yeah. When we were in the States, like I think that one of the we had an interview like in Massachusetts. They also mentioned the meme. Like, does the band have any relation with the meme at all? And like, no,
not at all.
We should have said yes. We wasted opportunity.
No, we didn't start the meme. No,
Okay.
we're sorry.
All right. So,
and we don't know what lamp is.
all right. So Moths did not start the lamp meme. I just want to clarify that. You already talked about this a bit. So, as your approach to songwriting, so it sounds like it's you four guys kind of come together, and Damaris comes in later to, is it usually like a mix of different stuff?
Well, usually when we go ahead and or schedule that we're going to rehearse for writing, usually what we do is that we schedule it between ourselves.
Usually us.
Yeah, and then we go ahead and just start riffing and figuring out stuff if it matches or anything else. Then we go ahead and just record it on our cell phones, that specific session, and then we send it over to Damaris.
The main way that we write it is, so one of us will bring an idea and then we'll ping it around the room. So we'll just drop an idea and then somebody will pick it up and we'll keep jamming to that, and we keep adding and adding and adding to it. Eventually, as we just keep adding to it, it'll get to a point where one of us will just scream stop.
Yeah.
And then it just go, okay, so we have like a verse, we have a pre-chorus, we have a chorus, we have verse 1, verse 2, we have everything else. So let's just loop the song into itself and we'll finish it. And that's kind of like how we write, the process that we write music, essentially.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that definitely results in this kind of eclectic, like mixed sound that you guys have, where like when you're listening to one of your songs, it's like you have a section and then all of a sudden it completely changes genres and then it keeps shifting and shifting. And then by the end of the song, it's like it all fits together, but at the same time, it takes you to so many different places. So that makes sense that the way that you write comes from just sort of adding these different elements like on top of each other, you know?
It's funny. There's some times where the four of us just, we are in the same room, but everyone just goes apart in their own little world. And it gets to a point where everyone's doing their own stuff while we're all four of us in the same room. So Jonathan's doing its like lead stuff, and then Omar is doing his riffs. I'm trying other stuff. Danny's also trying things. And then out of nowhere, something comes up that everyone stops. It's like, that's the one. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and try that one. And then we just keep going. And I would say that most of my favorite riffs from our songs have come up that way.
Besides like song structure, we like to like get creative when we do riff, like chords and stuff. Like sometimes we have that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if this is.
I don't know what this is.
I'm not sure if this is.
But no, it's basically part A, B, A, C. Says guitar lead.
And we just go. We just go ahead and start writing, because sometimes we write some very weird riffs out of no. Yeah, and then we just say, okay, let's call that riff the A riff or the B riff, and then we'll just do this weird system where we just try to fix it or put it in there. And
just to remember the order.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, dude, prog music is so fucking complicated.
It is.
But we play this.
But there's something very interesting about that. Even though I can say that we are all prog metal, prog rock fans, we don't really come and think when we start writing music. We don't really say, "Oh, let's write a prog song."
Exactly.
It's just like, let's have fun with it.
We'll just write what we think is kind of cool and what sounds awesome. And sometimes it's a really complex riff, or sometimes it's just a really poppy kind of riff. And, you know, sometimes it complements itself. In the same song that you'll have a really poppy riff, you'll have a crazy riff where somebody's like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah,
And like,
time.
That's another thing. Like, I try not to. People have this, like, they think that prog music just has to be like playing really complicated stuff and sweep picking and tapping and whatever. Yeah. So I like to picture it as just like you say, progressing the song structure, like not staying in the same place all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes like there's bands where you might not think that, oh, that's quite progressive, but you see bands like, I don't know, like Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Like they may not play the most technical stuff around, but their song structures are quite impressive. Like it just blows me away how creative that can be with so little.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the tough thing with the label prog is, like, it's really talking about a specific genre that started in the 70s and then it kind of morphed. But I mean, really, when we're making music that's usually identified as prog, it just means like having freedom in your songwriting. You know, it usually just means that, like, hey, let's not be afraid to mix all these different elements, you know.
Right.
And I mean that's why I love the genre. And I kind of think that there should be new genre names, because it's like what comes out of prog are all these different types of bands, you know, that don't really fit. And it's like I'm really convinced that we should be like the stoner metal genre, has become so strange. Like it's not what it used to be, you know, that we should have a new title for that name or for this genre of music. Cause like there's a new sect of stoner rock that's becoming like prog stoner rock, which makes no
or psychedelic.
Yeah.
yeah, it makes no fucking sense at all. With Damaris's vocals, they go all over the place. Like there's so many,
yes.
there's so many different styles.
Wait until you hear the new stuff.
Yeah.
I think she dwelt herself more into the whole growling aspect of it. Thanks to Danny. Danny keeps pushing the growls there, and you know, obviously we're not really used to seeing women singers screaming and stuff, but she's doing a fucking amazing job, and it's very interesting to see how she has progressed. I mean, it's all until you wait and hear to the new stuff. Like you're going to definitely hear that progress and evolution of her vocals.
Yeah, like, do you know Tatiana from the band Ginger? Yeah.
She's pretty fucking good.
She Damaris reminds me of her because both her growls and her singing is like super fucking strong, and I just get that vibe from her because like she has this super diverse style, and I mean I wish there were more women in the metal scene that were going that route, but there's not a lot, you know, unfortunately. And it's super fucking cool that Damaris is doing that, and that she's able to pull it off like so gracefully and with such like emotion. It's amazing. So I'm gonna get into the Moths EP. So with the song Lepidoptera. Lepidoptera. So what does that name mean?
That's the
group of moths.
Yeah, it's a group of moths. It's the scientific term for a group of moths.
Oh, gotcha. The whole album, first of all, it starts off with synth, like with these synth sounds, and that's like a continuity that happens throughout the whole thing. So what was the decision behind doing that?
That was me and Danny. We sat down here for hours, for like 3-4 hours, and just started doing random noises. Now, I'm pretty sure Danny had a lot of work when he started mixing.
Yeah. I think the idea behind it was that we didn't want it to sound like a series of songs.
Yeah.
It would kind of help blend the thing together, like a single
into one single song.
It contrasts the music really well because, like, especially in the King Crimson cover, I can hear like these little keys happening over the main riff. You know? And it doesn't sound like it's in the same key, but it's like it fits, and it's like it's really bizarre. I like it a lot. I was wondering if you guys wanted to talk about a little bit about the use of dissonance in your music, because there's a lot of dissonance in what you do.
That's Omar.
Okay.
Well, actually both, but that riff was Omar. So
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I mentioned, I'm always trying to like explore different things when I'm playing, or like there was like when I started playing, I was learning theory at the time, and I was like all the bands I was listening to, they were playing like basic power chords and stuff like that. So I was always wondering, what if I play this note over here? And I started like getting into like inversions and extensions of chords and stuff like that. So and that kind of like through time, I got used to like
Right.
getting like to dissonance. That comes in like just experimenting a lot and listening to a lot of different stuff, like a lot of experimental music. And I don't know, I just got my ear used to like listening to like dissonant chords.
Mhm.
Like, and there's groups like especially like the old jazz groups like Albert Ayler, Ornette Coleman, John Coltrane. They really play this dissonant notes throughout their songs. So I try to implement that into like distortion guitar.
Yeah.
But
I mean, everything sounds much more cooler with distortion.
Oh yeah.
so throughout our songs, I try to like get away from the like power chord type of guitar riffs, and I try to implement like inversions. It could be like a 13th extension or like a 9th or stuff like that, just to make it sound different and fresh.
Yeah, Lepidoptera, later on, I do the same thing with the two chords that we play, the E minor and the D sharp major. I believe that's the chord progression for that part. For that part, when I play that, I play everyone plays just the power chords, and I'm playing the inversions for those chords.
Gotcha. I want to talk about time signatures real quick, because in the first song, there's this phrase, and it's weird. You could describe it in a couple different ways. Like there's this part that goes from like 7/8 to 4/4. And it kind of switches back and forth between those two.
Oh,
So that was me actually.
Yeah.
And that part, what I was going for, I wasn't even going for anything jazzy or remotely time signature, because I don't think time signatures that much. I just I was listening to a lot of Protesta Hero,
Oh.
and that was really what came off at that time.
yeah, that's the thing. We don't think about like
I
time
think,
signatures.
yeah, I think this is the first time we actually go ahead. And
Yeah,
just-
because one of the songs that we haven't released yet, we played it live, and that show, it was with another band from like another progressive band called Avandra,
Avandra.
and one of the guitarists wasn't at the crowd when we were playing.
Yeah, he's a great guy, a good friend of ours.
And he came to me and he said, "Oh, that new song is like in like 7th something." And I'm like, right.
Right. Yeah.
For us, time signatures are just a way to vary the song,
Yeah.
to make it long and progress differently. Sometimes it'll be just a simple change, or sometimes it'll be, for example, we'll play the same chord, we'll play the same progression, but this time we'll add one little time signature to it, and make it weird. It's gonna make it weird. Or sometimes, or sometimes Danny has a thing where he wants everything to end in threes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to some of your music, and it's like there's these phrases that end in a different meter than what the rest of the part is in, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? It's like it's like, okay, this is in 7/8, and then it's like, wait, how?
What
wait,
is time?
yeah, what just happened? You know? I wanted to ask a question about Edhara and Ray. Is that how you say the song?
Daraa and Riffs.
Edhara and Ray. So, it's kind of like a stoner bluesy kind of sound for a lot of the song, but then there's this weird riff, like the dun 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 dun. You know what I mean? Like it's like that riff that it keeps breaking off to.
Oh, yeah, that's when you start with the bass line. The bass goes into that thing. What I'm doing is like, I'm just following like Wesley's bass line, and I'm doing different inversions of like D chords, but like I'm going throughout the neck. So I'm like, I think I'm playing like 3 different chords, but in reality, they're just like different inversions of D chords, and I'm just adding extension. Yeah, and Jonathan's playing like this weird lead, like kind of like palm muted, going.
Yeah,
yeah.
That lead right there is very Zappa for me, because it's like it's just the whole. It's a mixture of Zappa and Zinnik for me. Paul Masvidal is playing where it's like very palm muted and everything else, you know, very just moved around. But for me, it's more Zappa because of the whole moving in chromatic scales for me.
Gotcha. So there's like this weird atmospheric section.
The actual recorded part, the crazy psychedelic part, she's singing in the background.
Oh yeah.
This song.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yes, I forgot about that.
What was her name? And just, she's singing that, and just like I was just testing the microphone, and I was like, okay, just sing something so I can check the levels. And she starts doing that, and I'm recording it, and I'm like, I love this. That's it. I just took that and I slowed it down and added effects to it, and that's the vocals that you're hearing in the.
Oh wow, that's crazy! Yeah. I thought it was just a normal track.
No.
Like on this track, there's a lot of interesting like bass work, and I'm wondering, Wesley, what are some bass influences for you?
Man, I would say mainly Geezer Butler is like one of my biggest influences, and Steve Harris. For some reason, I try to stay away from all the Iron Maiden. I grew up listening to Iron Maiden. I also like stuff like Colin Edwin from Porcupine Tree. He's great, and Dan Briggs from Between the Buried and Me. Even though I cannot play half of the stuff he does, the way he views music and the way he views some of the weird time signatures, I think that's also something that it's within me. But it's not something like I sit down and like, okay, obviously Martin Mendez from Opeth.
So let's go to Desires. We already talked about that a decent amount. I know Damaris isn't here, but so there's a lot of different diversity in this song, and some of it sounds like Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. You know, some of it it's like this growly stuff, almost like you know, Death or something. And then like there's a lot of variety. Do you know what some of her influences are as a vocalist?
We've talked about this. She loves James LeBray from Dream Theater
and Chris Cornell.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
We've talked about this a couple of times where she doesn't really have a lot of female influences, and in some way, that's at least for metal.
That makes her very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that kind of makes it really sad.
It is.
Yeah, because I mean, she does have. I mean, we've heard her going into like very female approach vocals where she can be as sweet and you know, this very soft touches as far as the vocals go. But then we hear her doing the stuff that she does with us as well, where she can go really fucking aggressive, and it's very interesting. I don't really hear the Bruce Dickinson thing, and we've actually have a lot of reviews where they say that the vocals are very Bruce Dickinson, but I don't really hear it.
I see it. Same with like the Chris Cornell thing.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it comes subconsciously, but sometimes people say, "Oh, the vocals kind of sound like something Soundgarden would do."
It's weird. I think it's because her voice is very unique, and so there's a lot of different ways that you can describe it, and it's very virtuosic, I would say, and like the way that she's singing. So I mean, it reminds you of these great singers. I wanted to talk about breakdowns because you guys occasionally in your songs you go to these things. Yeah, you go to this like da. Like just like really heavy kind of breakdown stuff. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on breakdowns in music?
I think I kind of have some type of input on that because
Big caveman riff make me
Yeah.
happy.
I came from a background of playing really like heavy stuff. I grew like throughout my teens, I listened to a lot of like thrash metal and hardcore music. So the breakdowns kind of come a little bit from my side of stuff and like playing like really heavy stuff like death metal and really percussive palm muted guitar riffs.
Mhm.
So
I mean, they're I'm still a hardcore guy as well. So, you know, play a little bit of hardcore in there. You know, there's always that moment where we're going to put a little bit of breakdowns in there.
So I want to move on to the cover of 21st Century Schizoid Man. So it's a really cool arrangement. Like I like the way that you have a sort of variation on the original riff, like the way that you play it. Like it's almost a little bit more bluesy or something like that, you know. And then
I think it's because it's a little bit more
Slow?
late. It's a little bit more slow, but also I think it's a little bit more drawn back in the beat. I know that it's so odd, but for some reason it sounds more into a more squared 4/4 sound with us. Essentially because it's just more drawn back.
we play the main riff like mainly with power chords because in a way we're trying to compensate because the original track has like this horn section and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we just try to like, okay, let's just do power chords and add distortion to it and see how it sounds.
Omar plays the power chords and I play the high notes that way.
What? So in this song, that chromatic section that you're building up to, that da da da. You prolong that a lot. Like it goes on for a while, and that is.
I don't remember why.
Because we couldn't do the whole fucking.
Oh right,
version,
I forgot.
thing.
I mean, we just didn't try it.
Right.
Danny, what are some of your influences?
I guess Tool had a huge influence with Danny Carey from Tool. Like his kind of how he used the toms really is, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
He doesn't play in a conventional way. Like he uses the hi-hat. He starts using the hi-hat at minute 12, something like that. You know? Like so, it's really interesting how he approaches the concept of drumming, right? And other drummers, it's like the new stuff, the ones that I'm actually doing the drums, and the ones that I kind of made them all up together. Whenever I do kind of a solo type situation with the drums, I think there's a whole different style to it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily play like William.
Yeah.
I used to snare a lot. That's just a thing, right? And I think there's a bunch of maybe hip hop influences that are in my head. I always kind of think like, what would a hip hop drummer do in a drum solo? And that's so left field with the rock band. Like I think it's gonna do stuff that just sounds different.
That's fascinating. You guys have so many different influences. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. So let's talk about the new album. So we went in detail about some of the information that you guys are presenting on that album. But how would you sort of describe this direction that you guys are going in?
I would dare to say it's a little bit more mature, as in the way that we are writing songs compared to the first songs, or the songs in the EP, where, you know, we actually spent a couple of weeks in each song, like coming to the studio and just sitting down. Okay, let's work on this part. Let's work on this part, and then add in the vocals to it, add in whatever Damaris wants to add in the vocals, and then we shape to that as well, and then just create. I think we had the time.
We actually have
we had the time, and the fact that we recorded this as a unit. Compared to the first EP, which is sometimes
exactly.
Wesley, Jonathan, and I
Basically the first EP is us three and William on the drums, and then Damaris, she recorded the vocals because
we didn't have a drum.
Right, and then that's how she joined the band.
And that's what I'm most excited for this album, which is going to be the vocals, because this is the first time that we are actually recording with the vocals actually fully integrated into the band, as opposed to how we played the first album where they were kind of there, but they weren't really kind of there because, we were still in the changing of the members in the band, essentially. So that's pretty much what I'm very happy for.
Yeah, basically the vocals in the first EP were like, when she joined the band, it's like, okay, this is what we have. Just try to apply it as best as you can and do the best work as you can. Yeah. Now, with this new songs, she wrote the lyrics, she wrote the rhythmic parts of it. So it's her own approach to it. So I think that really adds up to the music. So again, I definitely agree with Jonathan. It's the fact that we do this as a unit. So all five of us together making these songs, I think makes it a little bit more as a structure and more solid than the songs in the EP.
Gotcha. I'm excited for you guys. Like this is like, I feel like the first album was sort of like kind of finding the mold almost, and then where you're going now is like you're really defining your sound. I mean, because I mean, a debut album, it's sort of like almost testing the waters to get a sense of what kind of band are we and where are we going. And now on this next album, it's like, okay, this is the direction we're going in. And so,
to be honest, I don't think, at least on my end, I don't think we're there yet. I'm not sure where we're going to go. We're just. I
never stop growing.
Yeah, and I think we might keep testing waters. I'm at least on my end. I'm not close on doing any weird shit in the future music that we do. So I don't know. We may actually do some weird soft stuff on the next record or heavier stuff. We don't know. And I think that's the exciting part.
Yeah.
About being in this band.
Yeah.
It gives us the opportunity to get really creative,
get really weird with
it. And like I said, I'm never fully satisfied with my work, so I'm trying to push forward and try to challenge myself and try out different things. So
yeah. So, and I think it's good to be open as a band, and I think it's a great thing to keep growing, and it's a great thing as a quote prog band to just always evolve, because I mean you're not defined by a genre in this case. You have so many influences that you can just keep going. I mean, like, for fuck's sake, you could end up being a hip hop band, or you could end up being like, like, or whatever. And I think that's the great thing about your music, So I wanted to end on this. So is there anything you guys want to promote right now? I know it's a very weird time, but is there anything that you want fans to be aware of, or you want fans to see from you?
Yeah, just go ahead and check out the EP. We are very close on releasing new music. So what I would advise or let everyone know is that to follow us on the different social media channels or platforms, like on Facebook, Moths PR, Instagram, Moths PR as well, YouTube, Twitter, Bandcamp, we're everywhere. But yeah, basically, if you haven't heard us, check the EP out. We promise you that we are going to release new music. We have a lot of new material, recorded material that's going to come out in the next couple of months. It's just a matter of this thing being solved out. And yeah, basically that. And yeah, just follow us on social media. Danny, we're here in M-Dork Music Dork Studio. If you live in Puerto Rico and you're seeing this, is probably one of the best studios to come rehearse and record. This guy's a fucking creative genius. So, and yeah, I think mainly check out the EP. Let us know what you think. And
Be our
yeah,
friends.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's reach out.
Fuck yeah, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I wish the best for you, and I hope all of this ends soon so we can all jam together and, you know, get back to playing some music. So
Play with the Stone Eye again.
yeah, fuck yeah. It's the Stone Eye Moths. That needs to happen soon, you know?
Yes.
Stone Moths.
Again.
All right, guys. Take care. Moths from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Enjoy.